So today we'll cover chapter 9, and the chapter's title is The Royal Secret. And so it discusses what is the royal secret. So first the chapter starts with some of the prereqs for a student, what a person should have. So, when you give knowledge, it's very interesting because I was very conscious of it this week, because I had read this chapter, and it says that the first thing it says is that the person to whom the highest knowledge, or which is basically a secret, can be revealed to, is somebody who who should not argue unnecessarily. So that is why why is it said that? Because a person who's very stuck in logic and goes into arguments and is not somebody that is ready for knowledge, unnecessary. I mean, it's obviously good to use logic and intellect, but just refuting everything just for the sake of refuting it is an unrefined intellect, or using the intellect in a negative way. So the first thing it says is one who doesn't argue unnecessarily, and he says, since you do not argue unnecessarily, to you I will reveal the royal secret. And so then Shri Krishnji says that this is a royal secret. Now what does that mean? See, the thing is that when we talk about knowledge of consciousness, it is not something that you can capture in the intellect. So the most profound truth or reality, or not even knowledge, it is so profound, this existence, that it is truly a secret that slowly unravels and unfolds. So it is not something that you can capture into information or something. So masters, great masters, they can talk about their experience, they can point towards it, but it's not something that can be revealed completely. It is a secret, So that is why it's called a royal secret. And the second thing it says, it's a royal science. So at one level it is a royal secret, and it is on the second level it's called a royal science because it's comprehensible by direct experience of the self. So whenever you look at scientists always use direct evidence, direct their own discovery, correct? So just like scientists depend on their own discoveries or the discoveries of scientists before them, in the same way, this is called a royal science because you can experience it. You can not know it, but you can experience it through your own direct experience of the self. So it's a royal secret and it's a royal science. It's available for direct experience, and it is the greatest purifier, which is very nice. This is a very key thing, that when you go towards this truth, it purifies everything else that is untruth. And so he says, it can be realized by intuitive knowledge because it is above intellect. So you can only know it through an intuitive sense. It goes more into a sense, than thinking. And this truth is dharma. Dharma is truth, truth is dharma. So, and also it's very easy to practice because, only when this is available for you to apply in life does it make any sense to even know about it, right? So to understand the world outside and ourselves is to know the secret of keeping healthy and happy and having a good relationship in the world, right? So the person who is able to harmonize both that knowledge as well as the able to achieve success has complete victory in this life. So that is why it says that it is also a knowledge that can be easily practiced. It is not something which is only experiential, theoretical, that's something that you is so profound that it's not practical. It's not like that. It can easily be practiced, and only when you practice it can you truly be successful both outside and inside. So that's what it says there, and it's obviously it's imperishable. Truth, ultimate truth is imperishable. So so now it talks about two paths. So this is the path of knowledge. People who progress towards evolution, towards self-evolution, towards knowledge, towards that profound secret of existence, of truth. And there are others who pursue the path of ignorance. And what happens to those who pursue the path of ignorance is they continue in this cycle of samsara, of birth and death. So this is the path that they have chosen. So it says that there are these rakshas and asurs that are deluded. They're deluded, and they have basically lower instincts, and I want you to understand who are really these asuras and rakshasas. So we'll actually cover this asuric tendencies much later in the Gita, but just understand that a rakshas and asura is obviously can be a person, but it is really the negative or the bad qualities in every human being. So an asuric tendency would be somebody who has a lot of greed or a lot of aggression, a lot of anger, and when those negative elements they are a great majority of your personality, that person is said this person is asuric. And those who actually go out and violently or affect other people, then that person is called a rakshas. So that is how you should understand an asura. So it just says that people who are asuric or those who are rakshas, they are deluded of vain. They have hope or their actions or knowledge, and they're basically senseless people. They have lost all the discrimination of what is right and wrong. They have they have quietened their conscience. They have they have very little conscience, so they listen very little to their conscience. So then it explained first the path of knowledge and then the path of ignorance, and those who follow the path of ignorance are stuck in the samsara. Now then it goes into a lot of the knowledge aspect. So it talks about, again, it is being covered before, but it is covered here again. Many of the things are repeated here again. So it talks about how creation is pervaded by me. So all places where you hear me in these verses, it's basically the self or Brahman. You can think of it like that, not really Krishnji. It talks about, from me perspective, it's the highest, it's the supreme speaking here. So it says the creation is pervaded by me, it is unmanifest, and all beings are in me, but I am not in them. So here, it goes into several verses, and it's a little confusing. If you don't understand this well, it can be very, very confusing. Because first Krishnji says that everything is pervaded by consciousness, fine. It is unmanifest, that's fine. Then it says all beings are in me, and then the next verse says all beings in reality don't dwell in me. So it contradicts itself. So it doesn't want you to get stuck in a certain concept, because it is, all beings are within consciousness, but truly they don't dwell in me. Because me is not a substance, consciousness is not a substance. So you can't think of it as though they're dwelling in something, even though they are a part of something. So it's a very hard concept. This profound knowledge is trying to be explained here in words, and it's very difficult. So certain similes sometimes help. The way I would like you to think of it is, think of it like a dream. Now when you're dreaming, the dream is within you, correct? So it dwells within you, but it truly doesn't dwell within you, because it's really an illusion. And that you actually, the dream is within you, right? So you are in the dream, but you are truly not within the dream either, because you're the waking self and you see yourself inside the dream. You will see yourself moving here, there, doing all of this stuff. So even though you're projected within the dream, you're truly not in the dream. And though the dream is happening within your mind, correct? It's happening within your mind, but it's truly not really happening, because it's an illusion. So that is how you should, when you read these verses, this is how you should understand. This is exactly the same with creation. The creation is a giant dream of Brahman, of consciousness. And it's been covered before, it's not the first time, but it talks about it here again in great length. So it talks about, consciousness is the efficient cause, the material as well as the efficient cause of creation. And the simile that is used here is just like how, wind moves within space, but the space is not affected. So is creation within consciousness. That's the simile that's been used here. So even though creation is like a dream, and it's happening, on a certain level of reality, it is happening, the consciousness itself remains unattached, unaffected, and it is not bound by creation. So people who only see creation as it is, as something which is real, and never look on the other side of it, which is true reality, which is consciousness, and it's really on top of consciousness, something has been projected. Just like a dream is projected on the mind, on sort of the projector of the mind, some people cannot really think anything outside of it, right? They are so into the dream, they're so stuck in that dream that they can never even think anything beyond it. So what happens? So that is one type of people. Now the people who have sensed that greater presence, they have experienced that consciousness. So what happens to those, right? When you experience that consciousness once, you will be able to sense that consciousness in others also. But people who are ignorant, they can never see that consciousness in other people. So that's why Krishnji says that fools don't see me in human form, not knowing the higher being. Meaning that, because they have never experienced the self, they only see me as a human being. They do not see the supreme that I am. And it's not only true about them, but it's true about you, it is true about other people that you see. You see them as a personality. You cannot see the consciousness pervading them. So that is what he's talking about here. Not only about him. He's not saying, oh, I'm an avatar and nobody knows me as an avatar. Because some people read this verse like that. It is not just him, but everybody. That we are not able to see consciousness that pervades people. We only see the human form and personalities. But great souls, they know him. They know not just him, they recognize not just that avatar consciousness in Krishnji, but they also can recognize that consciousness in other people. So how do they get there? It's through single pointed worship and devotion. They bow and they glorify that consciousness. So you can only become that great soul when you have that single pointed devotion towards your own higher self. And when you lay down your ego to it and you glorify, you invoke it, you make an effort to invoke it, you make an effort to realize it. And and that is when those people who have realized it, they come to be known as the great souls. So then one thing is obviously that all in knowledge, in gaining knowledge, it's always a twofold path. One is asserting the positive, so invoking the higher consciousness and getting this knowledge and doing all of these things. One is that you assert what is the positive, that I am Satchitanand. The other way to get there is to negate or burn all the misconceptions, all the negativity, take out all that is which is false within you, and you throw it into the flames of knowledge. So the destruction of knowledge in the fire, the destruction of ignorance in the fire of knowledge, that is also been called the yajna in the previous chapters, is again reasserted here. So those are the twofold paths towards becoming that person that that you want to be, that great soul, the one that can see consciousness, the one that can experience consciousness, the higher self. So this process, the Gyan Yajna, the Yajna of knowledge that is again described in this chapter, it's not a ritual. Okay, it is the process of seeing the self, the higher self, the consciousness beyond name and form. And that here is called the Gyan Yajna. And so you must see beyond the name and form, be able to see that consciousness that pervades, and be able to see that all names and forms are nothing but an expression of that one conscious principle. So when you see the same spirit moving through everything and anyone, that is when you have recognized the truth that lies beyond and lies through everything that exists. So for that you need to have those divine eyes to see that oneness, to see that pervasiveness of consciousness. This is what is called Ishwa Darshan and Atma Darshan. So you see, what happens is when you yourself have that experience, and where you have experienced your higher self, and it becomes more and more permanent in your life, where you live in that consciousness yourself, where you are living more than just your name and form and personality, when you start living more and more into that higher self that you are, the true self, that consciousness that you are, and that becomes your day-to-day reality, then those divine eyes open up. Those, the Divya Chakshuhu, the third eye, whatever you want to call it. When you can feel yourself as consciousness, suddenly when you look at a person, you can see through them, you see more, you see through their skin, you see through their bodies, you see through their personalities, you see their divine form. Even though they cannot see themselves, you can see them. You can see what is their divine form. You know what their divine self is, what their higher nature is, their true nature is. While they're talking to you, while they're behaving as this personality, you can just smile, because you know that you can see their true, their true self shining through that personality. And everywhere that you see, you feel that consciousness pervading everything. It's such a state of bliss, because you don't get affected. You're not no longer bound by these objects and personalities and situations, because suddenly your eyesight has changed. Suddenly you see everything so differently. Everything is pervaded by this consciousness. It's almost like this mist, this invisible mist that is moving through and pervading everything. It's almost like this energy, like how you have these unseen radio waves and cellular radio frequency waves that are pervading our homes. And I mean, there's everywhere, there's, you can't see these waves that you're connected to, whether it's the wireless waves or radio frequency waves or whatever these ultraviolet rays are. You can't see them, but they pervade your environment, your atmosphere. But what if you had these divine eyes that you can see this energy? So that is the shift that takes place when you experience your own consciousness. You live in that consciousness. You can see that consciousness in the other person, beyond them, beyond that person, limited personality. That is the advantage. And so when you can experience it, it is very practical, because then it helps you not get affected. It helps you ride the ups and downs. You don't get affected when you become famous. You don't get affected when somebody criticizes you. You don't get affected by anything, because you see the eternal principle that pervades everything, including you. So this is how, it is very practical. And then you can also perform your best, because you see that everything that is created is from that consciousness. So you have to do justice to it too. So this is how, it's described here. It's very beautiful. It's very nice. And if you can experience that, if these chapters and verses of the Gita can be your catalyst to push you into that realm of experience where you feel it, where you experience it, that is what is the beauty of this knowledge. And then it talks about, there's a couple of verses here. It talks about, people who do well, who are good human beings. They are very nice to other people. They're very kind. They're very generous. They do good karma. Good karma. They do good karma. They attain punya. Good positive account. So then they go to Swarglok. There they will reap the fruits of their good actions and so forth. But still they have not experienced that consciousness. They have not realized themselves. So they will exhaust their karma in Swarglok, and they will return. And the evolution will continue. They will pick up from where they left, and they will continue to evolve. And then, see, so those are the people who do good karma, right? Then there are people who, it says here, they are misguided and they worship at the altars of the devas. The devas, the deities, have limited potential. So they are not worshippers of the self, their consciousness, the ultimate principle, the consciousness principle. They don't pursue that. They pursue they pursue the devotion and the at the altars. They are into the lower forms, the devas, and so they do their pujas and all of that. And so what happens is, yes, the devas, if you worship Lakshmi, you will get Lakshmi, and so forth. So you will get returns, but those are finite returns, it says here. So this method will yield limited return, and again, once those gains are consumed, again you will be back to sorrow, right? So you will have this cycle where you will gain something, but it will be exhausted, and you might fall back into sorrow and misery and all of these things, and attachment, right? So it is always better to aim for the ultimate potential of the self. So once you have ultimate potential, because see, devas have limited potential, but the self is unlimited potential. So it's telling you, why don't you aim for that unlimited potential? Why do you want to go for these small little gold coins on the way? Go for that from which is the source of gold itself. So try to attain that is what it's saying. And here it's not demeaned or anything, but it's just saying it's very limited, So but it also says, it's the offering of devotion with purity, and no matter what material, it basically whatever you offer is what is important, So if you have pure devotion, if you're a pure person, it is good too. It is good, but evolution has to continue towards attaining the self. So the highest form of devotion is offering everything into your higher self and knowing that everything is the self. Then you are free from the results. You are detached, because when you know that everything is the self. So, there was a verse in the earlier chapters, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi. So that same verse is repeated here where it says the offering is the self, what is offered is also the self, the fire is also the self, and everything. So the ultimate is not to offer to a deity, but the ultimate is to make that offering into your higher self. So now see how step by step it's gone, from the karma yogis to the people who would have devotion, to the devotion to the devatas, and those who are devoted to the higher self. And I'd mentioned this to you before, and again in this chapter it is mentioned. It says those who are devotees will go to the devatas, those who worship the pitras, the ancestors, they go to the pitras, and so forth. It basically it says that whatever it is that you worship, whatever level till where you take your attention to your evolution to, only to that level will you ascend. So if you worship devatas or whatever the intermediate beings are, you will attain to that collective consciousness of that devata, of that being, which is okay. But you need to aim for your higher self. You need your self evolution towards your higher self is the highest and the most important thing, okay? Because see, what will happen is, otherwise you will get lost. If this knowledge is not given to you, you will get lost. Because creation and existence is so vast, and there are so many levels, that this delusion and these traps get harder and harder. They become very hard to cross. Otherwise, you tend to get stuck or fall into certain traps. So that's why I keep telling you that as you evolve spiritually, it is very important that you keep this highest knowledge with you in your back pocket, so you don't get stuck anywhere. You understand what I'm saying? So there are many people, of course there are people who worship devatas and all of this stuff, but as they invoke these devatas or avatars or prophets or beings or rishis or whatever it is, Brahmaputras like Sananda or whatever, you must realize these are intermediary steps towards the final goal, because you will ascend to that to which that you worship. So if you're a devotee of Krishna, you will merge into Krishna. If you're a devotee of Guru Nanak, you might merge into whichever level Guru Nanak has attained. If you're a devotee of Jesus or whatever, Buddha or Brahmaputras or whatever, till whatever level that your worship or your attainment has come, to that level you will ascend. But don't get stuck there, You will achieve a connection with them, with those beings, You will achieve a connection, and their beatitude, their blessings, they will give you what you need, all that stuff. But keep in mind that the ultimate consciousness is all that there is. Even these beings are that consciousness. Everything else is Maya. All these dimensions and loks and beings or devatas, whatever, siddhas, rishis, la 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 la, or they're all Maya. Do not get stuck on any level. So that's why I keep coming back. See, this verse is again said, devotees of devatas go to devatas, and those who worship pitras go to pitras, and so forth. But always remember the non-dualistic principle. Okay? So the thing is, the uniqueness about the Vedic path is that we never demean or throw out any level of evolution. And I wanted to talk to you about this today. It's 7:34. I have time to talk. See, the central principle, now it's very useful when you talk to people who are not Hindus or not dharmi, it's not really Hindu, the people who don't follow Sanatan Dharma. There are two types of faith. One is the exclusivist faith, that this is the only way. There is no other way except this way. All other ways are false, illegitimate, right? But Sanatan Dharma is a pluralistic, inclusive faith. It says, a person who's doing idol worship, it's okay, they are in their level of evolution. Sanatan Dharma will give you everything. It will give you the highest knowledge also. But people who are into Deva worship, into idol worship, or whatever it is, or whether they want to be karmi yogis or devotees only, whatever, they will never say it is illegitimate. They will never curse them as non-believers. They will never, Vedic Dharma will never ever do that, because it is far more profound. You see, it accepts people who are, some people in kindergarten. For people in kindergarten, you can't talk about consciousness, that eternal formless, nameless, eternal principle. I mean, consciousness is so vague a concept to them. It is so intangible. You need to start with stories, moral stories, how in kindergarten, how you talk to kids. Now, it's just like science, right? In how much can you teach a kindergartner or first grader or even up to 5th grade? How much science can you teach a student, a child? You can only tell science in a very simple way, in a very reduced form, in a very limited form, right? The science explained to them. Consciousness and science are almost synonymous. So you can't explain consciousness, to a 5th grader. You have to reduce it. You have to limit it to certain stories about great souls and so forth, So this is what Vedic Dharma does. It realizes there are people at different points of evolution. Let them be on their path. Accept them, love them, and keep giving them the knowledge of that, the final goal that they have to reach, and slowly they will evolve, lifetime after lifetime, they will evolve, okay? So it's an inclusive, pluralistic thing, it doesn't matter if you worship Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad or Krishna or whatever deity you want, it is all okay, as long as it is dharma. Dharma means truth. As long as it is in line with dharma, all paths are included. All paths are accepted. Everything is fine. And all types of knowledge is included in Vedic Dharma. Not one input by one person and one book. Over time, all these realized souls' knowledge was included in the plethora of literature that's available, plethora of knowledge that was available. So these great souls were not Indians. They were people from across the world. So I'm actually reading a book. I don't read, but it's a good reference. I was reading The Vedic History of the World. It's a very nice book by M.K. Agarwal. So, Dharma is not a religion. It is not Hinduism. Dharma does not have boundaries, even on the planet Earth. Just like science is not limited to just one type of people, only to the planet, it applies to the entire creation. That is how dharma is universal. It is across the universe. It applies everything. So if you say it's only one man, one messenger, one book, and this is it, and nothing else is there, which is truth, is only one truth, it is not synonymous with reality. You know, like science includes the inputs of so many scientists, dharma includes the wisdom of all realized souls. And over time, all these souls kept being included. So like Buddha was included when he came along, he was included in the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam originally didn't have Buddha as an avatar. But because he was born there and people came to know, and I'm telling you for sure, if Jesus and Muhammad were born in India, in fact they are actually mentioned in the Bhavishya Puran, they would have been included in Dharma. So this is something that you must know and understand, the inclusive and pluralistic nature of Dharma, Sanatan Dharma. Okay? And how it is all about universal wisdom, universal, Dharma is universal. So it talks about this, how it is okay if they're karma yogis, it's okay if they do idol worship, let them be. And finally the highest is the attainment of self, is the experience of self. It says that no matter what they are worshipping, even if they're doing it doesn't condone, it in fact the sentence here which relates to idol worship, which is called idol worship, it's not really worshipping an idol, it is using the idol as a means of invoking a devata. It's more sacred and divine than that. But it says that they are misguided. Those who worship at the altars of devatas are misguided. So it doesn't ever say that's the best thing to do, right? It is an intermediary step. But it says that even them, even the devatas, even the people who are worshipping those devatas, everything is finally that one eternal truth. So it's okay. See, if something is eternal and universal, like consciousness, there can be nothing outside of it. Even ignorance is part and parcel of the story. It is part and parcel of the story of creation. It is part and parcel of everything that is created, that one eternal truth. That is why it's all inclusive. So it says even those worshippers, they are also part of that one eternal truth. It is the same infinite reality because there is only one. The self, the consciousness, that is the substratum of everything behind all the devatas and rishis and prophets and avatars. There is only that one eternal consciousness. That is why acceptance is the breath of Vedic knowledge. But these non-dualists, the people who are the wise people who are following the Advait Vedant, the ultimate knowledge, they are not deluded, They accept everybody. So that is what I wanted to bring up. So and then it talks about, once this story of creation is over and Prakriti merges, everything merges back into Prakriti, and then the next Prakriti, the next creation comes about, and this is covered in the previous one also, but this is what this chapter talks about. So we finished early. There's a couple of verses about creation, but yeah, I'm open for questions.
You said, if I understood correctly, you offer yourself to the higher self. What does that mean?
So it is about taking, it is, think of your self like, your body, mind, personality, intellect. When you take it towards that consciousness, you offer it, you surrender it, you merge it into that consciousness. So the thing is, when there is a separation, your consciousness is separate from your personality. When you merge it, then it becomes one. So in this, merging is referred to as an offering, because an offering implies a merging, a surrendering. Finally, you have to surrender the ego, because it's the ego that separates. So unless and until you offer the ego into your consciousness, you cannot merge into that oneness.
I think I understood, but I'm not sure. So another question is, you're talking about the dream bit. So I know spiritual masters often say that this is also a dream.
Correct.
In consciousness, it's a dream, right? So it's like when I am dreaming, I don't know I'm dreaming. It's only when I wake up that I realize, oh, that was a dream. So the waking state is higher than the dream.
Correct.
But if the spiritual masters are in a higher state of the consciousness or elevated, then for them, even this is a dream. I mean, it's relative reality, but even this is a dream. What's happening right now, we speaking right now, this is a dream from the higher state.
Absolutely. I mean, they also function in this transactional reality. It's see, the way to understand it is, it's relative. Think of it as different levels of existence, and it's a dream when you consider it in a relative term. See, from when you are in the dream, it's very real, correct? When you wake up, you, from that perspective, that was a dream. But when you're in the dream, it is real. So it is relative. When you're in it, it is not a dream, it's real. So that's why it's called relative reality. So even you can't say that the dream is not real. It did happen. You did see it. Correct? You did dream. You can't say it's non-existent, it's a myth. No, you experienced it. It did happen. It was a dream. So it's not like when they say creation is a dream, that it's something which is non-existent. It is existent. It is happening. Everything, though, is relatively a dream from a higher level of existence. It is not that this doesn't exist. It's because this concept of unreal, the Jagat Mithya, this Sanskrit term that has been used again and again by Advait Vedantins, that Jagat is Mithya. Mithya doesn't mean that it is unreal in terms of non-existent. It is relatively like a dream. It is relative existence, transactional existence, so to say, if that makes it better.
Yes, of course, in a dream, the pain is real, the happiness is real, everything is real. It's
Correct.
only when you're out of it that you realize that it was a dream.
Correct. But it did exist, it did happen.
So if creation is the dream of the Brahman, of the consciousness, then we are dream objects of that dream.
The personality, Seema, yes. The personality.
Ego, the jiva.
Jeev, yes. Not your consciousness.
Not the consciousness.
Yeah. And you'll experience it. Sometimes in meditation, even I have experienced, when you transcend that personality, you can actually watch that personality. And you know that you're more than that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? Otherwise, we'll be done 15 minutes early. No questions. A lot of this is a repeat, don't you think? A lot of this I found is a repeat of previous chapters also.
Vinita ji, You didn't go like a sloka by sloka. I understand that, but sometimes when I'm studying this,
Mm-hmm.
certain thing bothers me in a sense that the Gita, where they are talking about royal thing, um, that like a sloka 32 in this chapter, I feel like they are putting women down, and also they're talking about Vaishyas and Shudras. I am a
Okay,
little
okay, okay.
surprised
Yes.
that
Let me.
Gita would
I will
do
tell you.
that.
I will tell you. I didn't want to really cover that here. So, Shlok 32 says, "For taking refuge in me, O Arjun, even they who may be of sinful birth, women, Vaishyas, as well as Shudras, attain the supreme goal." Okay, so at surface, this seems misogynistic, doesn't it? I mean, it is not demeaning women or Vaishyas or Shudras. It is the way, and it is not even just here in this verse. Actually, this thing about women comes up in several verses of the Gita and in the Upanishad also. I've read it. So this is talking about a nature in you. See, everybody has an emotional nature, everybody has a nature to get attached, everybody has a nature of being tamasic, huh? So, or being greedy. So here it is not talking about a woman, it is not talking about a Vaishya. It is not talking about a Shudra. This is talking about the three lower natures in us. The nature in which we become very emotional and attached is called the feminine. The see, women have, I mean, the feminine has positive also and negative also. The male has positive also and negative also. The male nature in us is the ego, the power hungry control, blah blah blah, the logical analytical. That is the masculine aspect. But the masculine aspect is also one which is objective, that tends to be unattached. The masculine is has other very good qualities also of in that sense. So every aspect has a positive and a negative. So also the feminine, even though feminine is related to the spiritual aspect, the feeling aspect, the creative aspect, the feminine is also got the negative aspects of being emotional and attached, and uh, in that sense, these are some of the qualities of the feminine aspect in everybody, not just a full. It is not talking about a linga, the gender. It's not talking about the gender, the physical gender. It is the qualities, it's the attributes of the feminine, the masculine, universally. The Vaishya is the greed and our desires for wealth, and it is insatiable quest to gain more and more wealth, artha, wealth, fame, uh, and wealth, fame, and power. Yeah. So Vaishyas are the ones who think of life as a business. Everything is a business. Even if they go to the temple, it's a business. Like, I will offer this much I want to the god, and you give me this in return. It is that Vaishya nature. Okay. Then the Shudra is not a person, but it's a tamasic aspect. So when the varns are explained here, the problem is that we are brainwashed and we categorize varn by birth. That so and so born to whatever, I don't know what the different names are, the last names. You hear a last name and you categorize them as one of these four castes or not. I don't want to use the word caste. Learn to use the word varn, Varna, varna. So we say, okay, how can you do that? Everybody's nature is different. There are four basic personality types. Okay, the scholars, the leaders, the traders, and the workers. And these personality types they are conducive to certain professions. But the personality types are based on your nature. Some people are scholars by nature, some people are leaders by nature, some people are business minded by nature. So it's just talking about natures here. It's not talking about somebody with a last name or born to somebody with a last name. So it's saying the Vaishya nature, because it is based on two things, guna and karma. Varun is based on guna, nature, and karma, what you do with that nature. So Vaishyas is one who wants to trade, and the Shudras is the people which have, tamasic nature, laziness, lethargy, don't want to do anything, that kind of thing. So this is of the sinful birth. Sinful, not really. See, there's no such thing as sin in Vedic terms. There's no thing as sin, like, in Christianity. It is not that. Sin in Vedic terms means those who have a lot of vasanas and karmas. Vasanas in particular is sin. Sin is just related to negativity, if not, simplest way to do it. There is no such thing as sin. It is those residues of impressions that affect you and limit you.
Okay.
I'm glad you read all the verses.
Somewhere in the back of my mind, I still like your grandmothers or somebody who said that all these things, all these individual slokas are kind of like, you call it a Krishna or you call it a Atma or consciousness, but it is just saying me, that I am the great, I am this, I am that.
Yeah, because it's a supreme speaking. Like when you channel, when you're channeling that supreme consciousness, it is not a personality of Krishna. He's no longer, he's just become a frame. It is that universal supreme consciousness that is speaking through that personality, that frame. He's simply become a frame. That's why he says, I'm not name and form that you're looking at. Okay.
I got it. I just unmute myself, otherwise there is a echo coming in.
Okay. Last chance, otherwise we'll end it. Okay.
Another question.
Huh?
So you mentioned about how some people go to Swarglok. So my understanding was where is Swarglok? My understanding was that it's right here. The mind is the Swarglok and the Narklok. There is no another place that you go to. You said you finish off the the fruit of the good things you've done and you come back. So where is this another place that you're born into? I mean, it's right here in the mind.
No. So first, so mind, first of all, the when you think of mind, it is not a physical aspect, right? It's something that is very pervasive, more pervasive, right? So it's much bigger than the limits of the body. So the mind is sort of a larger, more pervasive entity, which is within the jeev. So you have the soul, but that soul, as long as it thinks that jeev thinks it's separate, when it dies, it leaves the body, but the mind and the causal body stay, because the jeev, that entity, that individual soul entity, remains and it transgresses. Then what happens is it transcends to it transmigrates to another dimension. So it is like Maya is this levels of dreams. If you watch the movie Inception, how they go from one dream to another dream. I don't know how many people have watched this, but anyway, so Maya is the multiple levels of dreams, but basically you transmigrate from one level of reality to another level of reality, which is called another dimension. You cannot say that it's a physical dimension because, like the mind is not a physical boundary around it. Only the physical dimension has boundaries, it can be measured. So that's why it's called third dimension. That means it has length, width, height, 3 dimensions. But the mind is the fourth dimension. But it's not really a dimension that can be measured. You know that you have thoughts, you know you have feelings. In that sense, yes, only can be measured by the intensity of your feelings or by the number of your thoughts. To that level it can be measured, but not in height, width, depth. Then you have the fifth dimension. Fifth dimension is the dimension of light. Okay, so Devlok is sort of, you can, so Dev means the light principle, right, the illuminating principle. So you can think of that as a dimension of light. Okay, so it is not this physical light, the sunlight or firelight. It's not like that. It's a different subtle light. And so these beings, the light beings, the devs, and of course there are certain rishis and siddhas and also in that dimension. But that dimension, that lok, swarg lok, is another dimension where certain beings exist. So you transmigrate to that level. So most people don't even go till that level. They only go till Pitralok, that dimension, the dimension of the ancestors. So let me just make it like somehow so that it's comprehensible to you. Let me explain it to you like this. It's like, think of, you have your physical dimension, which is earth. Okay, then think of from here till say the moon, or at least the atmospheric level of the earth. Think of that as the Pitralok, as the fourth dimension. Okay, then so you understand, right? You have the physical dimension, then you have the astral, or the basically the Pitralok, which is say the atmospheric level or till the moon. Then you have the Devlok. Now think of it as the sun, till the sun. So you see how you're expanding? You've expanded till the sun. So think of it like that. So it becomes more and more pervasive. Like body is a certain limited aspect. It's like earth. The mind is bigger. It is like the atmospheric till the atmospheric level of the earth. Mind is like that. The body is within the mind. And then your devlok, or your celestial level is much bigger, much bigger. So it becomes more and more pervasive. So it is a dimension. Swarg lok is a dimension. If you ascend till there, you will exhaust whatever good karmas you have accumulated and you come back. But you're still in the cycle of samsara.
Hi Vinita ji, what is beyond the Swarglok?
It's Mahalok. Maha. So when you say, some of the shlokas, like mantras, like the Om. So Om Bhu. So actually the Gayatri mantra, when it was revealed to Rishi Valmiki, right? It was not Om Bhur Swa. The mantra was Om Bhu, Om Bhuva, Om Swaha, Om Maha, Om Jana, Om Tapa, Om Swarga, Om Brahma. So you say the 7 loks through which the light of consciousness pervades. May that light of consciousness shine on my intellect. That is the Gayatri mantra.
Oh.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mom, but
Okay, so we're done.